You're tuned in to Sinister Shadows, where forgotten broadcasts resurface, strange signals bleed through the static, and the stories don't always stay fiction. If you found this channel, it's not by accident. Something brought you here. So settle in, stay quiet, and listen closely. What you're about to hear might sound like a story, but some shadows speak the truth. I should have known something was off the second I stepped into Hawthorne Hall. Not because it was an old boarding school built in the 1800s with vines clinging to the stone like veins, or the fact that every floorboard creaked like it had a voice of its own. It wasn't even the way the halls always seemed too dark, even in the middle of the day. It was the mirrors. There were way too many of them. Mirrors in the hallways. Mirrors on every dorm room door. Full-length ones in the bathrooms. Ones framed in wood so old it looked like driftwood, and even tiny ones embedded into the doorknobs of the faculty offices. And they weren't clean either. Some had weird smudges that looked like fingerprints, from the inside. But nobody seemed to care. I transferred to Hawthorne halfway through junior year after my mom took a research job overseas. The school was prestigious, historic, and just pretentious enough to brag about in future job interviews. But the students? Stiff. Like they were always one warning away from detention. My first day was mostly orientation and weird stares. The faculty handed me a Welcome to Hawthorne binder, and tucked in the back was a crumpled sheet of paper labeled Dormitory Rules. Most of it was standard stuff. No parties, no phones after lights out, no loud music after 9. But the last one was handwritten, in red ink. 7. Don't look into any mirrors after midnight. Ever. I assumed it was a joke. Is this like a haunted house thing? I asked my new roommate, Simon, a wiry kid with Coke bottle glasses and a stack of sketchbooks under his arm. He didn't laugh. He didn't even look up. It's not a joke, he muttered. Just follow it. Why? What happens? Simon flipped a page in his sketchbook. You don't want to find out. That night, after curfew, I lay in my bunk with the sheet crumpled in my hand. Across from me, the wardrobe mirror gleamed faintly in the moonlight filtering through the blinds. It was angled just right to reflect the whole room, including me. I turned my head toward it, and saw something weird. Not movement exactly. More like shimmering. Like the surface of the mirror had just barely rippled. I blinked. It was gone. Nope. I yanked the blanket over my face and told myself I was jet-lagged, hallucinating, half-dreaming. But the next morning, Simon had drawn something in his sketchbook that made my stomach flip. A figure, long, shadowy, standing inside a mirror. The week went by like that. Classes, silence, stares, and the growing sense that I'd stepped into something I didn't understand. I kept trying to make friends, but people treated me like I was radioactive. Teachers were distant. Even the janitor gave me a weird look when I asked why the bathroom mirrors were covered with white sheets after sunset. They're covered for a reason, he said, wheeling his mop cart past. Don't uncover them. Is this some kind of school tradition? He paused, then without looking back. It's survival. No explanation. Just kept pushing his cart. One of the wheels squeaked, leaving a thin trail of dirty water behind him. And yes, I did catch a quick glimpse of the mop itself, duct-taped, burned at the tip like it had seen some serious shit. Friday night, things got worse. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it. A whisper, barely audible. I froze. The bathroom was empty, every stall open. The mirror in front of me was uncovered. My reflection stared back, toothpaste foam in my mouth. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then out. I stood in darkness, and in that half second before I reached for my phone flashlight, I swear I saw it. My reflection wasn't moving. Even as I turned my head, my reflection kept facing forward. Eyes locked with mine. No blinking. Just staring. When the lights came back on, I dropped my toothbrush. It clattered in the sink, and I backed away. You saw her, didn't you? Simon said from the doorway. I hadn't even heard him come in. Saw who? I asked, my voice shaking. He pointed to the mirror. The lady in the glass. Dude, stop messing with me. She picks one new student every year. You look too long. You're marked now. I laughed nervously, but my chest felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. That's some campfire story shit. But Simon didn't smile. Set an alarm, he said. Wake up at midnight. Look in the mirror again if you don't believe me. I'm not doing that. He turned to leave. You won't have a choice. I didn't set an alarm, but I woke up anyway. 12:03 a.m. on the dot. No sound, no wind, not even the hum of pipes or radiators. Just complete, suffocating silence, and the wardrobe mirror glowing faintly again, reflecting the whole room. Except something was standing behind me. Tall, thin, dressed in a long black gown, hair draped over her face like wet string. Just standing there, not breathing, not moving. I whipped around. Nothing. I looked back at the mirror. She was still there, and she was closer. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. After I saw her, the woman in the mirror, I grabbed my blanket and slept on the floor with my back to the wall, eyes locked on the wardrobe. Every blink felt like a gamble, every shadow, a threat. By morning, I was pale, sweaty, and shaking. Simon didn't say a word when he saw me. He just handed me a thermos of black coffee and nodded like he'd seen it before. Don't talk about it, he whispered. If you acknowledge her during the day, she comes faster at night. I wanted to say he was full of it, that I was hallucinating from stress, maybe sleep paralysis. But the memory of her pale face behind the glass, tilted ever so slightly, clung to me like smoke. I went to class anyway. Hawthorne looked normal in daylight. The other students were still distant, but they weren't hostile. Some even nodded at me in passing, like they were trying to act normal despite knowing something I didn't. In third period, I overheard a girl in the back whispering to another kid. Another transfer's been marked. How long do you think he's got? Depends if he follows the rules. When I turned around, they both looked away. That evening, I found Simon sketching in the library. He was drawing the same woman again. Long gown, bony fingers, face just a blur of hair and shadow. I want answers, I said, setting my tray down beside him. He didn't look up. You won't like them. Try me. Simon sighed. Her name was Arabella Crow. Back in the 1800s, she was the headmistress here, obsessed with reflection, discipline, purity of spirit, whatever that means. She lined the school with mirrors so students could face their sins. But one year, a girl went missing. They found her body behind the wall of a mirror, like she'd been pulled into it. I swallowed hard. They said Arabella went mad, tried to walk into the mirror to cleanse herself. She disappeared. And now, every year, she picks someone. I stared at him. And everyone just lets this happen? Simon shrugged. Hawthorne doesn't care. They want to keep the school's legacy clean. Students vanish sometimes. They say they transferred, got expelled. But if you dig, those names aren't anywhere. I wanted to argue, call him dramatic, but I couldn't. Because that morning I'd noticed something new. Scratches on the inside of the wardrobe mirror. 3 long fingernail trails, from the inside out. That night I didn't even bother trying to sleep. I borrowed duct tape from the supply closet and taped a thick blanket over the mirror. Simon raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Around 11:30, I tried playing music in my earbuds to drown out the silence. Didn't work. At exactly 12:01 a.m., I woke up again. Not from noise. Just woke. Like something had plucked a string in my brain. I stared at the blanket-covered mirror. It was still in place. Then the room got cold, bone-deep cold, and I heard it. 3 knocks, from behind the glass. Knock, knock, knock. I squeezed my eyes shut, tried to pretend it was wind, plumbing, anything. Then came the whisper, right behind my ear. Let me see you. I sat up gasping, heart jackhammering. The blanket was still there, but a corner had been peeled back, just enough for a sliver of the mirror to show. And in it, an eye, pale, unblinking, staring directly at me. I launched out of bed and slapped the blanket back down, pressing all the edges tight with trembling hands. I sat on the floor for the rest of the night, back against the wall, bat in hand. The next morning, my name wasn't on the attendance list. I found out when my English teacher paused mid-roll call and blinked in confusion. "Did we get a new student in this seat?" I raised my hand. It's Eli. I've been here all week." She frowned, checked her sheet. "I don't see your name here." After class, I went to the admin office. My file was gone. The secretary didn't even recognize me at first. "You must be mistaken," she said. "We haven't had a transfer in weeks." That night, Simon confirmed what I already feared. "She's erasing you." "What?" "You're marked. She starts small. Takes your reflection, then your records, then your name. You'll disappear in layers until nothing's left. No one will remember you." "That's insane." Simon looked me dead in the eyes. "Look me in the face and tell me what color your toothbrush is." "Blue. Was blue yesterday. Today? It's white." I ran to the bathroom. He was right. We came up with a plan. "There's a mirror in the east wing," Simon said. "The original one. The one she died in. They keep it behind a locked door now, room 313. If you face her there, before she finishes erasing you, maybe you can break the link." I hesitated. "Maybe?" Simon leaned in. "It's either that or vanish." So that night I stole a key from the janitor's cart, grabbed my flashlight, and headed for the forbidden wing after lights out. The hallways were darker than usual. Every mirror I passed seemed to hum, like they knew. Room 313 was at the end of the hall. The door was warped, the brass handle cold as ice. I slid the key in. Click. Inside, the room was empty, except for the mirror. 7 feet tall, frame scorched black, covered with a sheet, and something breathing behind it. Not a lot, just barely. The slow, deliberate kind of movement that made your brain say, "That's not wind. That's something alive." I stood frozen in the doorway of room 313, one hand still on the key, the other clutching my flashlight so tightly my fingers ached. The room itself was cold and smelled like ash and rotting wood. No furniture, just the tall mirror in the center, covered in yellowed cloth and surrounded by burn marks on the floor, like it had survived a fire someone tried to forget. The breathing didn't stop. Slow, rhythmic, too deep to be mine. I should have run, but I didn't. Instead, I took a step in. The floor groaned beneath me like it hadn't felt weight in years. I raised my flashlight and swept the beam around the room. Nothing but peeling wallpaper and old scorch marks. But when I aimed it at the mirror, the sheet twitched. I sucked in a breath. "You're not real," I whispered, more to myself than anything else. "You're just some school legend, a prank." The mirror exhaled. It exhaled. The sheet billowed outward slightly, like something behind it had just breathed out hard. That was enough. I turned to leave. But the door had closed behind me, and locked. I yanked the handle. Nothing. Kicked the door. Still nothing. Even the key was gone. Behind me, I heard the sheet whisper to the ground. I didn't want to turn around, but I did. The sheet had fallen. The mirror was uncovered now, and she was there. Her reflection wasn't like the ones I'd seen in the other mirrors. This version of her, Arabella Crow or whatever she really was clear. Every feature perfectly visible. Pale skin like wet porcelain, thin lips curled into a frown, and eyes so black they didn't shine. She stood in the mirror, wearing that same black gown, long sleeves trailing at her sides, hair parted just enough to reveal her face this time. And she was mimicking me. Every move. I lifted my flashlight. So did she. I tilted my head left. So did she. But when I stepped back, she stepped forward, closer to the glass. Her hand rose and pressed against the mirror. Long fingers, nails like polished obsidian. And then, without warning, a crack bloomed in the glass, right under her palm, a hairline fracture. I backed away quickly and hit the far wall. "I came to stop this," I shouted. "You can't take me." The crack spread. Her smile widened, thin and wrong, like it had never been used before. Behind her, the mirror seemed to stretch, bending like water. My flashlight flickered. She tapped the glass with one finger. Tap, tap, tap. Then the sound came from behind me. Tap, tap, tap. I turned around. There was no mirror behind me, just a blank wall. But the sound kept echoing, like it was inside my skull. I faced the mirror again, and she was gone. No reflection. Not of her. Not of me. The glass was empty. That was somehow worse. I pressed my hand to the surface. Cold. Solid. But something pulsed behind it. Then came a voice. Not a whisper this time. A voice like a memory being replayed in a dream. "You see yourself clearly now." I stumbled back. "What do you want?" The glass rippled, and suddenly I was looking at a version of myself, but aged, hollow-eyed, hair thin, a face that looked drained like it had been copied one too many times. It reached toward me from inside the glass, pressing both hands against the surface. Simon had said she erased people in layers. I understood now. This wasn't just about pulling people into the mirror. She was replacing them. A sudden loud crash split the silence. Someone was pounding on the door. I turned to see the handle rattling. "Eli!" Simon shouted from outside. "Get away from the mirror! I'm trapped! I got help! Move back!" I dove aside just as the door burst open. The janitor, same grizzled guy with the mop and bleach-stained uniform, charged in holding a crowbar. "Close your eyes!" he barked. "What? Close them!" I did. The sound that followed was unbearable, a screeching like nails on metal, but deeper, wet and angry and ancient. I heard glass shatter, then something like wind rushing inward like 1,000 whispers sucked back into silence. Then nothing. I opened my eyes. The mirror was shattered. Pieces everywhere. No reflection in any of them. Just jagged black shards that didn't shine in the light. The air was heavy, like the pressure had dropped in the room. The janitor stepped carefully over the glass. "You're lucky. She was almost done copying you." Simon looked pale, sweat clinging to his temples. "We have to burn the pieces." The janitor nodded. "And salt the floor." Again. Back in the dorm, I sat on my bed staring at the wardrobe mirror, still covered. Simon sat across from me, cross-legged, still sketching. "She won't come back?" I asked. He hesitated. "Not from that mirror, but she's in all of them. Every glass surface in the school. She's always watching, waiting. What now?" He flipped a page. "I've been drawing something," he said, "but I didn't want to tell you until now." He showed me the page. It was me, or a version of me. Only the eyes were black, and the reflection in the sketch was smiling. "I saw this before you ever stepped into room 313, Simon whispered. "I think maybe she already finished copying you." I stared at him, and behind me in the wardrobe mirror, something smiled back. I sat still for a long time, staring at the covered wardrobe mirror. Simon's drawing stayed clenched in my fist, the edges crumpled, that unsettling version of me grinning with jet-black eyes. The same way something in the mirror had smiled back at me. But I hadn't smiled. I hadn't even moved. That was the part that chilled me the most. "What do you mean you saw this before room 313? I finally asked, my voice low. Simon closed his sketchbook. I started seeing flashes, in my dreams. Sometimes in reflections, but just for a second. I thought it was her, trying to show me something. Or maybe warning me. Of what? He hesitated. You. The rest of the weekend dragged by in silence. I tried acting normal, brushed my teeth, went to the library, ate in the cafeteria, but I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone was watching me, not with suspicion, but with confusion. Like they saw someone they almost recognized. Like I didn't belong. In the bathroom Sunday night, I caught my reflection doing something strange. I yawned. It didn't. It just stared, mouth closed, eyes flat. I blinked and leaned forward. It blinked back, half a second late. Monday morning, I woke up early and ripped the blanket off the mirror. My reflection stared back. Normal, still, matching my every move. I waved. It waved. I tilted my head. It followed. But then I walked away, out of the mirror's view, and I saw it. It didn't turn. My reflection stood there a second longer. Then, slowly, it turned to face the side wall, after I was already out of frame, like it was watching where I'd gone. I stopped sleeping. Every night after midnight, the school seemed to change. Shadows didn't fall right. Windows showed reflections of places that didn't match the room they were in. One night I saw a classroom on fire in the hallway mirror. But when I turned the corner, the real classroom was dark and quiet. It wasn't just me anymore either. One of the younger students, a freshman named Marcus, was found sleepwalking outside at 2 a.m., barefoot, eyes glassy. When they asked where he was going, he just said, "She asked me to let her in." They sent him home the next day. Not expelled, just removed. Another layer erased. Simon and I tried researching old Hawthorne records. Anything we could find on Arabella Crow. The library had a dusty archive room in the basement, rows of ledgers, faded photos, and warped yearbooks with black and white portraits of dead-eyed students. We found one photo labeled Faculty 1896. There she was, Arabella. But her face had been scratched out of the image, not printed that way. Someone had physically gouged the photo, deep grooves across the paper. When I tilted it in the light, I realized something horrifying. It wasn't just her face scratched out. It was every mirror in the photo behind her, like someone had tried to erase her everywhere she could be seen. That night, I decided to test something. I stood in front of the mirror at exactly midnight, staring at my reflection. "I know you're not me," I said. It didn't move, didn't blink. I leaned in. "What do you want?" The smile began, slow, unnatural, stretching just a little too far. Then its mouth opened. Not mine. No sound came out, but its lips formed words I couldn't hear. I watched closely. "Let me finish." My stomach dropped. Simon burst into the room, slamming the door behind him. "She's back." No kidding. No. I mean really back. I saw her. Not in the mirror. In the hallway. I blinked. Like physically? She's walking the halls now. Students are starting to vanish. Not all at once, just missing from classes. Their dorms. It's like she's not waiting for midnight anymore. I felt the floor shift under me. Then what the hell do we do? He pulled a folded paper from his jacket. "We found this in the archives. It's a cleansing ritual. One student tried it in 1973. Didn't survive. But they said it weakened her. Gave them time to shut the East Wing down. What's it involve?" He looked at me, dead serious. "You have to trap her in a mirror, then break it." I thought breaking a mirror made things worse. Simon's expression didn't change. Only if she's not inside it. We chose the bathroom. It had the biggest mirror outside of room 313. I set up candles, salt lines, everything Simon had copied from the ritual page. He stood guard by the door, whispering Latin phrases that sounded like a bootleg exorcism. At midnight, I stood in front of the mirror and stared. "Come on," I said. "I'm ready. You want to finish? Let's finish." The glass fogged over. I leaned closer. She was there again, Arabella, her black eyes and crooked smile just inches from mine. Only this time she wasn't standing behind me. She was looking out from inside me. My reflection moved with me again, but the eyes were hers. And then I felt it. A pull, like gravity in reverse. My breath caught in my throat as I felt myself drawn toward the glass, not physically, but something deeper. My mind, my soul. "She's trying to switch," Simon shouted. I gritted my teeth and focused. "No." I slammed my fist into the sink. "You don't get to be me." The reflection flinched. The pull loosened. Simon threw the last of the salt onto the mirror's base, and Arabella screamed, not in the air, but in my skull. A soundless shriek that felt like it was vibrating through my teeth. Then the mirror cracked. Hairline. Like before. I grabbed a shard from the sink, lifted it, and slammed it straight into the center of the glass. The mirror shattered. The candles went out. Silence. The next morning, everything seemed normal. Students talked to me again. Teachers said my name. I even saw Marcus back in the cafeteria, quietly eating soup. But when I walked past a window, I caught something in the reflection. Not me. A version of me. Standing still. Watching. Smiling. Even after we shattered the mirror in the bathroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. People acted normal again, sure. Classes resumed. My name was back on the roster. Simon even gave me a tired half-smile, like maybe we'd actually pulled it off. Maybe Arabella was gone for good. But I knew better, because the reflections still lingered too long. Every mirror I passed showed me, or what looked like me. But sometimes, it was too perfect. Like a wax version of myself mimicking my posture a second too late. Like it was thinking, learning, becoming. I started carrying a piece of broken mirror in my pocket, a jagged shard from the bathroom we shattered. It didn't reflect anything anymore, just darkness. Cold to the touch no matter how long I held it. But it buzzed in my hand whenever I got close to a mirror, like a Geiger counter for the cursed. The third floor of Hawthorne was off limits, officially under renovation, though I never saw a single worker go in or out. Simon and I had always avoided it, but that week, people started whispering again. Another student had vanished, a junior named Delaney. I didn't know her well, but I remembered her laugh. Loud, real, the kind of sound you didn't hear much in Hawthorne. Gone. Her roommate said she was staring into the window after lights out. Said Delaney smiled and walked toward it, and just never turned around. That night, Simon and I crept up to the third floor. The hall smelled like mildew and paint thinner. The walls were warped from water damage, and some of the doors had been nailed shut. We passed rooms filled with old desks, boxes of textbooks, and dusty mannequins wearing outdated uniforms. At the very end of the hallway was a door labeled 3-17. No window, just peeling paint and something scratched into the wood. We stayed. Simon looked pale under the flickering flashlight. "We shouldn't open this." "Do you feel that?" I asked. "Like the air's thicker here?" He nodded. "Like something's pressing down on us." I opened the door. It groaned like a scream. Inside, the room was pitch black until our flashlights lit up the back wall. And there they were. Mirrors. Dozens of them. All shapes and sizes. Mounted, leaning, stacked. Every single one covered in a thin sheet of gauze. And behind the gauze, shapes. Not just shadows. People. At least, reflections of them. Some were children. Some looked like teachers. A few were barely visible, standing deep in the mirror's space like the light couldn't reach them. And they were all facing outward. Watching. Waiting. Simon stepped forward, eyes wide. "They're the ones who didn't escape," I whispered. "What do you mean?" "The ones she erased. The copies. Trapped in the reflection dimension or whatever the hell she uses. This is like her trophy case." We moved closer. One of the mirrors had clearer glass than the others. No gauze, just open space. And in it, I saw her. Delaney. Her hands were pressed to the glass, her mouth moving soundlessly, eyes wide, terrified. She was pounding, screaming, but not a single sound escaped. Then her eyes locked with mine, and she mouthed a single word. "Run!" The glass shivered. Simon yanked my arm. "We have to go. Now." But I couldn't move. Something behind me had caught my reflection. I turned to a tall, arched mirror near the door. My reflection stood there, but it was smiling again. That same smile. Too wide, too fake. It stepped forward, hand outstretched toward the inside of the glass. I stepped back. It didn't. I backed all the way to the wall. Simon pulled me toward the door. "If you look too long, they can trade places with you," he hissed. "It's how she finishes the copy." I turned and tripped over a bucket. Dirty mop water spilled out. In the corner, next to a cracked mirror, sat an old mop, burned at the tip. That poor mop has seen things. We slammed the door behind us and ran back to the dorms. I locked the mirror in our room behind the blanket again, reinforced it with duct tape and prayer. My heart wouldn't stop hammering. "What if we're too late?" I asked. "What if she already replaced me?" Simon sat down hard on the edge of his bed. "Then we've got one shot." He reached into his sketchbook and flipped to the last page, a page he hadn't drawn on yet. It said if you draw their face in perfect detail, from memory, from your soul, it anchors you back into reality. It reclaims your image. "You think that's enough to stop her?" "I don't know," he whispered. "But we're running out of mirrors." That night I stayed awake while Simon sketched. Around 3 a.m. I heard movement in the hallway, someone pacing. I opened the door, and standing there was me, but not quite. My face but drained, hollowed, lips twitching into that unnatural grin. We stared at each other for a full 5 seconds. Then it whispered, "You shouldn't have looked." I slammed the door shut. On the mirror, cracks began forming from the inside out. The cracks on the mirror didn't stop. They branched out slowly, jagged like lightning bolts crawling through the glass. Every now and then, I'd hear a faint creak or a soft pop, like the pressure inside was changing. The reflection stayed still, too still. I sat at my desk, gripping the shard of dead mirror in one hand and a pencil in the other. Across from me, Simon sketched feverishly, sweat beading on his forehead. "You need to remember every detail," he said, not looking up. "Not just your face, your soul, the way you feel when you smile, the way your eye twitches when you're tired, the scar on your right hand, that one freckle under your lip." I swallowed. "Why does it feel like I'm fading?" "Because you are." The pencil snapped in his grip. By morning, I was a ghost. People looked right through me again. Teachers mispronounced my name or skipped it entirely. A girl I'd talked to in history class bumped into me in the hallway and didn't even apologize. I checked my phone. No photos of me, not even the one I'd taken the first day of school. My contact name was there, but the profile pic, blank. The text history, empty. The worst part? When I looked into my eyes in a mirror, I didn't recognize them anymore. Back in the dorm, Simon had finished the sketch. He held it up like a holy relic. It was me. Every detail. The tired, wary expression. The chipped tooth. Even the stupid scar on my knuckle from falling off a bike in 3rd grade. And when I looked into the eyes of that sketch, I felt something shift. A pull. Like gravity reasserting itself. Like something tethering me back to reality. Simon nodded. "We have to finish it. One last step." He reached under his bed and pulled out a piece of dark cloth. It was a veil, black, translucent. "This is the last part of the ritual. You wear this and face your reflection at midnight. Alone. If it doesn't move, if it stays smiling, you stab it. You shatter the mirror before it can finish copying you. And if it's already done? Simon didn't answer. 11:58 p.m. I stood in front of the wardrobe mirror. The blanket was off. The glass shimmered faintly in the candlelight we'd placed on both sides. Simon sat behind me, sketchbook in hand, the drawing clutched tightly. I wore the veil over my face, the world tinted gray behind it. The mirror was empty. Then the reflection appeared. Me. Same face. Same clothes. But no veil. I wasn't wearing the veil in the reflection. It wasn't me. "Do it," Simon whispered. "Now." I stepped forward. My reflection didn't. It stood still, eyes wide, then slowly, grinned. The same crooked, too-wide grin. I raised the shard of glass from my pocket. Its edge shimmered like it wanted to be used. Then the lights flickered, and something whispered from the mirror. I already walked through. The door slammed shut behind us. Simon shouted, "Smash it! Do it now!" I swung the glass shard into the mirror with all the force I had. The impact made the world flash white. Then, black. I woke up on the floor. The mirror was shattered, shards everywhere. My knuckles were bleeding. The candles had gone out. Simon was gone. I scrambled to my feet, calling his name. Nothing. The room felt wrong, stretched, like gravity had tilted sideways. I reached for my phone. It was dead. No matter what button I pressed, the screen stayed black. And then I saw the mirror shard on the ground. It showed my reflection. Only it was Simon's face, staring back, mouth moving. You shouldn't have trusted him. I stumbled into the hallway. All the doors were open. Every mirror in the hallway, every single one, was covered with a thin sheet, just like in room 317. And behind each one, something stood still. Some were tall, some small, all watching. I passed a window and looked out at the quad. It was daylight, bright, birds flying, students walking, except they were all reflections. Their shadows didn't fall the right way. Their eyes moved before their heads did. This wasn't the school anymore. I was inside the mirror world. A hand touched my shoulder. I turned, nearly screaming, then stopped. It was Simon. Or maybe not. His eyes were sunken and his expression was blank. No recognition, just an eerie stillness. "Simon?" I whispered. He smiled. That smile. And vanished. I ran. Past rows of mirrors. Past reflections of people I barely knew. Some of them turned to look at me. Others followed me inside their glass cages. Finally, I found one open mirror. Cracked but not shattered. Flickering faintly. A way out. I stepped toward it and then I saw myself on the other side. Not the reflection. The real me. He looked scared. Confused. He mouthed something. I didn't make it out. And then, he smiled. I don't know how long I stared at him. Me, on the other side of the glass. His eyes were mine. Same hazel color. Same scar under the right eye. Same shaky breath. But when he smiled, that was her. Arabella. She had finished the copy. My body was on the other side of the mirror, and I was trapped in this flickering hell, surrounded by the forgotten, the twisted duplicates, the students who had looked too long and weren't quick enough to run. And now, she had me. I slammed my fists against the mirror, screaming, but my voice was just a muffled whisper in the mirrored world. The other me watched silently. No mockery, just stillness. Then he turned and walked away. Time in the mirror world is strange. You don't age, you don't sleep, you don't breathe unless you remember to. Days flicker like static, and the sky is a painted ceiling you can't touch. Most of the time it's empty here, but sometimes you hear echoes, a knock on glass from the other side, a scream swallowed by silence, a memory replaying like an old VHS tape in a broken loop. I wandered through it for what felt like weeks. Eventually, I found others. Delaney was still there. So was Marcus. And Simon? God. Simon. Or what was left of him. He didn't talk anymore. He just sat in a corner, sketching the same face over and over in charcoal on the mirrored walls. Each time it looked a little more like Arabella, a little less like himself. When he looked up and finally spoke, his voice was brittle. "They don't stop at one." That line stuck with me. They don't stop at one. Because he was right. It wasn't just Arabella anymore. She'd spread, like a virus. Every mirror that held her reflection became a new infection point, a place for her to watch, to copy, to replace. And the worst part? She doesn't always take the whole person. Sometimes she only swaps pieces. The smile, the voice, the laugh. You'd never notice until it was too late. Until your best friend says something just a little too perfect. Until your teacher blinks at the wrong time. Until your own reflection winks when you weren't smiling. It's not just students anymore. It's spreading beyond Hawthorne. I tried escaping. Every night I walked the mirrored halls looking for a way out. A mirror cracked just right. A flicker that didn't belong. A light from the other side. And one night, I saw one. A tall mirror, newly formed, still warm like it had just been forged. And through it, my room, my old dorm, the blanket still hanging halfway off the wardrobe mirror. An open path. I didn't hesitate. I ran. Just before I stepped through, I saw her behind me in the glass, Arabella reaching out, but I dove forward. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the dorm. The floor was cold under my hands. The mirror behind me was cracked, covered. I gasped. Air tasted real, heavy, full of dust and mold and life. Simon sat on the bed, his face pale, hands clenched, watching me. "You made it," he said. I stared at him, breathing hard. "Simon?" I asked. "Yeah," he said slowly. "It's me." I stood up, dizzy. Everything was blurry at the edges, like I was still shaking off sleep. "What happened? How long was I gone?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at me. Then, "Do you remember who you are?" My stomach dropped. "What kind of question is that?" He got up slowly. "Because I've been watching you sleep for 2 nights. You didn't move. Barely breathed. I didn't know if it was you who came back." I laughed, but it came out wrong. Too dry, too hollow. I turned to the mirror. The cracked shard on the floor still reflected me, but as I leaned down, my reflection blinked, just a second too slow. Then, it smiled. I sleep with the mirrors covered now. Every single one. Bathroom, wardrobe, windows, even the shine off my phone screen. Anything reflective gets blacked out, because I don't know which version of me came back. And sometimes, when the room is too quiet and I forget to blink, I hear her voice again. "You walked away, but the reflection stayed." Final notes. After I left Hawthorne Hall, the school mysteriously burned down, or so the report said. But sometimes, when the moon hits my bedroom window just right, I swear I see the shape of the building in the reflection, just standing there, waiting.